How are we doing, everyone? So in this video, we're going to be talking about the Games Industry Employment Survey 2025, where it's going to talk about the salaries, the compensation trends, and the state of the game sector in Europe. And there is some great data in this document. But before I get into that, I just want to give a big thank you to Robert Beria. He's the one that sent me this document, but also he's an amazing YouTuber. The content on here is phenomenal. I'm on my Spolata Bros account, so it might look like I haven't watched any of his content, but on my alt, I've pretty much watched, I don't know, at least 50%. I've still got a lot to go, but it's amazing. Like this piece, how many portfolio pieces do you actually need? Amazing video. I love his portfolio reviews. This one's really great. The one by Sergey is great. How to figure out your freelancing hourly rate is amazing. It's good information, especially if you're an artist. He's actually already covered this survey before, so when you get the chance, you should watch his perspective. He gives some really good insight. And yeah, all the content here is amazing. I actually found him through this video, Should You Do Art Tests? So you can see there's a bit of overlap between our communities about what we believe in. So yeah, big thank you, Robert. So let's talk about the highlights of 2025. And I'm sure these are going to be real highlights and not lowlights, guys. So 26% of people experienced layoffs in the past year, with games designers, artists, and QA specialists hit the hardest. Now, I've already had a look at this document briefly. One thing I want you guys to keep in mind throughout the whole video is that I think the data that we're going to see here is actually best case scenario. I think under the hood is actually far worse than what this document is going to portray. That being said, it is still brutal. There are some brutal things in this document. Anyways, 13% left the games industry entirely in the past year. So over 10% of people have thought, nah, this industry is not for me. And it could be for a multitude of reasons, right? Could be just people retiring, which would make sense. Could be people that have been fired and just thought, nah, never again am I dealing with this. And it also could be people voluntarily quitting because, they're just sick of the industry in general, or yeah. And then marketing professionals leads the trend, with 24% switching to other industries, the highest rate across all roles. Now, I wonder if that means the marketing professionals switching to different industries to continue doing marketing, or if it means that they're switching to other industries and just doing other work in general. And with me personally, I've been applying to marketing and sales jobs in different industries. And oh boy, it's like night and day the difference on how you're treated. So I had 5 interviews, 3 of those hit the second round. One of those actually got the job offer for, but I couldn't accept it. I just couldn't do it. It was like they expect you to drive to Whoop Whoop every day, like driving here, there, everywhere. I just couldn't. They don't have like a singular office that you can stay at. It's like, it just wasn't for me. I'm still waiting to hear back from one of them, and I feel like there's a good chance I will probably get that. And with the games industry, nothing. Absolutely nothing. It's a fucking ghost town, right? Tumbleweeds everywhere. It's just so brutal of an industry. And it just doesn't make any sense. It's like the games industry is in its biggest year. Like it keeps making more and more money each year. And yet the job market is just so rough. Anyway, at the junior level, 39% exited the industry in 2024 and 2025. Yeah, I mean, again, what this document is going to show is that it is generally more rougher for the juniors versus the seniors. It's just unfortunately the way it is. 15% have been job hunting for over a year or are still searching. Brutal. Among programmers, 18% say it takes a year or more to land a new job. Imagine how it is for artists. I've been preaching on my channel, and this document will prove it, that artists have it far worse than programmers. I'm not saying programmers have it easy. They definitely have it hard. It is brutal for them too. But if 18% of programmers, it takes a year for them to find a new job, imagine an artist. It's no wonder that people are quitting. Anyway, when changing jobs last year, 28% accepted worse terms, either a lower salary or a lower position. It just makes sense, the whole supply and demand issue. And when the competition out there is willing to lower their standards, right, it's forcing everyone to lower their standards. It's funny because the salaries are getting lower, the positions are getting lower, but the responsibilities are going up and the workload's going up. It's a complete imbalance, and it's just so frustrating being in the games industry. Only 1% of respondents are interested in developing hyper-casual games. Interesting. Salary remains the top priority when choosing an employer for 87% of professionals. Makes sense, you want to work the work and you want to get paid for the work. Half of all respondents report experiencing professional burnout. Now, I don't want to take away from these people, but what about the other half of people? They're feeling the complete opposite problem, where it's like they're ready, they want to play. It's like being on a soccer team and being on the bench. You're there, you're training, you train your skills, you want to play, but you just can't play. But yeah, like 50% of people feeling burnout. Yeah, that's brutal too. It's not a pleasurable thing to go through. 41% have a personal project on the side, most often programmers, game designers, and artists. That's a good thing, save yourself, like it's giving you a fallback, Still, I wish that was above the 50% mark. QA specialists are the most skeptical about AI. 24% neither use it for work nor plan to, the highest rate for any role. Now, talking about AI isn't really my speciality. There are a lot of other people on YouTube who are much better at doing that. I do have an opinion though. I don't really think it's going to take over our jobs the way people think. It's not going to be because, it's so much better that it's just going to make human work obsolete. There is a threat to AI though, and I think it's got to do more with like companies. They're going to be stupid enough to invest all their money into AI and instead of investing it into the development of their project. So theoretically, you can lose your job in that way because all the money is going to be put into AI and not put into you. That's where I see the threat of AI heading. So yes, you may lose your job over AI, but I don't think it's because, it's so much better than you. Like, I don't really see that being a thing. Anyway, moving on. So who conducted this study? So the study was conducted for the 9th time and the 3rd at the international level. It provides an in-depth look into the European video games industry. It's a collaboration between Values Value and In-Game Job. The research explores key trends in salaries, job satisfaction, job security, and career development across different roles and regions. So it looks like these companies are recruiters. And thank you so much for making this document. It's a very insightful document. So how was this study conducted? The research was conducted anonymously from March to June 2025. A total of 1,650 respondents from 85 countries worldwide participated in the study. So, a decent amount, but nothing crazy, so keep that with a grain of salt. That's only 1,650. Compared to the greater games industry, we're probably looking at, I don't know if I had to guess, 100,000 people. So keep that in mind. Moving on. So who participated in this study? 56% are male, 25% female, and 19% other. And of those, 8% were junior, 24% middle, 35% senior, and 29% lead/top. So the majority of people who took this study are of a senior level and above. So one thing I've learned over time by being in the games industry is that seniors and juniors are dealing with two different types of problems. Of course, sometimes there's some overlap with what they're dealing with, but usually the problems that seniors are dealing with are different to the problems that juniors are dealing with. So keep that in mind, and we're going to talk about them later. So 21% of people have over 10 years experience in games. So 1/5 of this document are like vets, pretty much. And that's interesting because lead/top. So those people were able to get into those positions before the 10-year milestone, which is interesting as well. 82% have a bachelor's or master's degree. 8% did not finish university. 6% only had a high school education, and 3% had a PhD. Now, I wonder what percent of those PhDs became teachers, because I know that in order to become a teacher, it's much easier if you have a PhD. That being said, if your education, if you can prove that what you've learned in the games industry supersedes that, then you're more likely to get the role. But I find it interesting that 82% of people are going for bachelor's or master's degrees, and I don't really see that represented in the jobs that much. Look, I do see it sometimes where it's like in the qualifications, they want you to have a bachelor's, but not always. This is one of those industries where I feel like people are being tricked into thinking that they need to get a bachelor's at the very least, or at least have some sort of certificate. I don't think it's necessary. I think self-teaching and learning, like doing some cheap course online, is probably the best way of getting your education. I don't think it's necessarily needed for a job. Moving on. So we've got the content. And this, here we go. Now we're going to be talking about salaries, which is pretty interesting. How much am I going to get paid for the job that I do? So we've got the salary data from 2025. And it's no surprise, the top management, C-level and VP is at the top. Well, I mean, they're at the top of the hierarchy of the company. Of course, they're going to get paid the most money, right? Next, we've got analytics, which is interesting. Next is project management and production, so sort of like the managers. So I guess they're a bit above, like an entry level. And then marketing/user acquisition. Now, this sort of makes sense because when it comes to sales roles and other marketing jobs in other industries, they tend to get paid really good, like fairly decently. And then following that, we have programming and development being in the middle ground. So next is founder/co-founder. And what's interesting is that if you start your own studio, you're more likely to make more money than the job roles that are below this. Next is HR and recruiting. After that is games design. And then of course, art and design being right at the bottom. It truly is rough. There's just so many factors why. So many people are willing to do it. So many people are so passionate, over passionate about art. I'd say when you compare programming to art, I feel I'm sure there's plenty of people who are very passionate about programming. But I just feel when it comes to art, that you're more likely to find someone who is just overly passionate about it. And when you have people that are overly passionate about it, they're willing to accept lower rates of pay. And this is exactly why we're seeing art being at the bottom. And plus, art is one of those things you can't start that from the start of the game. When you want to build a game prototype, there's really no need to have art until a later stage. It's rough like that. So what's the average pay? In Europe, we've got 43,500 euros, which, when you convert that into other currencies, isn't too bad. But compared to a programmer who's getting 60,000, it is a significant difference. It is a significant difference. It is what it is, guys. And moving on, we got Tanya. And I'm sorry if that's not how you say your name, by the way. I've never actually seen it spelled like that. They say salaries for programmers, especially Unity developers, have dropped by almost half, mainly because there are barely any open positions. There have been a lot of layoffs and very few new opportunities. The second big factor is AI. And I don't really think that's a big factor. Copilots, cursors, and all the rest. Development really is speeding up thanks to these tools. And from there, you can draw a whole range of conclusions and implications. So she also says, this isn't just happening in the games industry. It's a broader trend across mobile development as a whole, which I think is true, because I rarely see jobs on LinkedIn about it. The only developers whose rates are going up right now are AI specialists. Yes, so the people who are coding AI systems, their wages are going up, but not the people who use AI systems. Even if it might benefit the company, their wages are still going down. In fact, many job descriptions now explicitly expect candidates to be able to work faster with AI tools. Faster, but not with extra pay. And yeah, here we go. We see another example of the disparity between art and games design jobs versus programming and development jobs. Just how rough it is for pay rates. Yeah, I mean, but I guess that I reckon that's always been the case. Artists have always been paid less than developers, I think. Any industry veterans in the comments, let me know if you disagree with that. So, and then we have here how much you get paid based on the model of monetization that's used. So if it's a hybrid style type, I guess that means multiple different monetization strategies in one. And then we have freemium, which makes sense because there's a lot more players. And when you have a lot more players, there's a lot more competition. And then when you have more competition, they're more likely to spend more money. Monetization via ads. Okay, that makes up quite a large portion. That must be the mobile playing into big effect there. Google Play Pass, free to play in-app purchases. Okay, makes sense. Subscription-based, Web3, paid premiums and DLCs expansions being at the bottom. But, it still makes up a significant amount. It is interesting, though, if you work on a paid game, you're more likely to get paid less than someone that's working on a freemium game. Interesting. You have here, if the game has a publisher, you're more likely to make more money. I guess that makes sense. The company can afford to pay a publisher. They probably can afford to pay you more. If they're an outsourcing company, you're more likely to get paid less. If you work for yourself, you're more likely to get paid less. And if you're working for a marketing company, you're more likely to get paid less. Interesting. We have here the different genres. So you got hyper casual, getting paid the most, which makes sense because mobile. Mid-core, which I've never actually heard about before. Mid-core. Has anyone ever heard of that? That's new to me. Casual-based games, which, mobile as well. Hardcore games, which is up there as well. See, the difference isn't too crazy, but yeah, it is significant. Like hyper-casual people are getting paid 80 grand a year. Hardcore people are getting paid 60. Indie's getting paid less than that, which is expected. It's indie. They generally make less money. Kids games getting less. But this one surprised me. The education sector in games getting paid the lowest. What surprises me is that when it comes to education, these types of projects are more likely to be government funded. So less likely to come out of the pocket from the actual lead developer. So that might prove that the development funds that the government are giving to people is significantly lower than what we would expect. So the average wage is $43,500 for someone that's working in education. That doesn't mean that these projects are government funded. I would just assume that a large majority of them are. So I found that really interesting. Moving on, we've got the different genre of the game itself. And this one surprised me as well. Fighting and martial arts games being at the top. Now, I'm not really sure why that's a thing. Like, it's referring to games like probably Mortal Kombat and stuff, but how would that be different from like any other genre here? And some of these really surprised me too for being that low. We've got MMORPG, tower defense, which I think probably is up there because of the monetization ability. You're selling upgrades and skins and like stuff like games like Clash of Clans where you can pay gems to get your building, built faster, where you use time as a resource. So that sort of makes sense. Hidden object games being up there is surprising to me too. Because I would think that the audience for those would be generally older. Like my mum would be the type of person to play a hidden object adventure game. She would never donate any money. That could just be my mum. But it's just crazy that the people working on those games are more likely to make more than the ones that are below. We got Grand and Forex Strategy, Word, which I'm not really sure what that means. Is that referring to like word games, like brain teasers? Maybe. Tycoon, RTS, Battle Royale, which is up there, makes sense. Match 3 Mobile. Merge, I've never heard of that one either. Strategy RPG, here's the one. Slots and Social Casino Gambling. 62,505. So it's slightly above mid-tier, but not at the top. So you would think that this one, because there's so much money in gambling, you would think this one would be at the very top and be at the very top by far. That's interesting to me. It's pretty crazy. Next, racing, farm, city builder, sport, turn-based strategy games, quiz, simulation, strategy, board, turn-based. And if we go down to the very bottom, we have indie, which makes sense, and AR. See, I started off my career in AR. And that's where I worked the majority of my industry working years in. I was paid good. That could just be because my boss was also a good person as well. Much respect. If you're listening, thank you. I won't give out your name. But surprising to me, AR's at the bottom because I do see quite a decent amount of opportunities in AR compared to like a Battle Royale, So that one really surprises me. Maybe it's because the work that you're doing on an AR game is expected to be of a lesser quality. When it comes to 3D assets and just assets in general, you want them to be more optimized for mobile devices. And so no one's expecting AAA level shit from artists for an augmented reality game. That being said, Andrew's told me coding for AR is really difficult. It's like a step above like coding regular games. It's honestly really difficult. You're working with third-party shit. Shit's always going wrong. He's going crazy. It's stressful as. Found that interesting. Let's talk about satisfaction with current salary. So how satisfied are games industry professionals with their income? So we asked respondents to rate their income satisfaction on a 5-point scale. So of course we have here the classic, juniors feeling the worst out of the bunch and then the top managers feeling the best out of the bunch. This has always been the case anyway. I feel like it doesn't matter what industry you're in, you're probably more likely for the seniors. You got some survivorship bias here too. I mean, if you're a senior, you're staying there for a reason. You obviously feel like you're good enough and you're probably getting paid decently. So it just makes sense that you're going to be a bit more happier. So Jelena says, over the past year, the games industry has undergone a number of changes, both at the market level and in terms of broader global dynamics, currency fluctuations, inflation, and the rise of AI. These factors are impacting not just individual professionals, but companies themselves. Many of today's mid-level specialists entered the industry during the boom years of 2020 and 2021, a time of rapid growth and abundant job opportunities. So what's interesting about this is that I still feel we're in those boom years, like as in like the industry in terms of how much money the games industry makes is just going up and up and up, and it's exponentially going up and up and up too. It's making the most money it's ever made ever. Now, I don't think there was an abundance of job opportunities even back then. Like there certainly were more, and it was a lot less competition too. I think we got to factor that in play. So this makes me remember when I had a conversation with my boss about how I got the job. So 4 or 5 years ago, he put a job advert out and I applied for it and I got the job, and we already know that part. So recently I was speaking to him and I asked him how many people went for the job. And he's like, yeah, there weren't many. I don't remember the exact amount, but there weren't that many. I was able to squeeze them in on like half a day or whatever. Now, if we had to do that in today's age, if he had to put that exact same job advert out, he'd be flooded. There'd be hundreds of people going for it. He'd be absolutely flooded with applicants. Like it's just, that's how effed up the industry has gotten of recent times. The competition has just soared fucking fuckloads. It's crazy how bad it is. 2021, a time of rapid growth and abundant job opportunities. Again, I don't think it was really an abundance. Back then, expectations were high, fast career progression, frequent raises, and plenty of offers to choose from, often with attractive financial terms. Now, there is some truth to that. So yeah, I do think that back then there were more attractive financial terms. There were probably a few more offers to choose from. Expectations were high. At least that's good to admit, because expectations are even higher now. And fast career progression, yeah, that's not even like expected anymore. People don't really expect to progress. They just want to work and get paid. Again, the passion's just overruling. By 2025, the market has shifted. Fast growth has given way to a focus on optimization. Add that to the effects of external economic climate, inflation, currency instability, and other global pressures, and it becomes clear that declining satisfaction with salaries often reflects more than just trends in game development. It mirrors a broader feeling across the job market. People are working just as hard, if not harder, but often feel like the return on their effort isn't what it used to be. True. I truly hope that this is just a temporary phase and that in the near future, the market will once again offer more opportunities and open more doors for emerging talent. In my opinion, I think we're currently on a downward spiral, right? In my opinion, I just think it's going to get worse and worse and worse. Look, it might improve. I honestly don't feel so positive about it. That being said, it may get better, but I don't think it's really going to get much. I just think it's going to keep going worse and worse and worse because it's doing damage. The damage is being done now. We're doing damage to the juniors and the people who can't get into the industry. So that damage, the consequences are only realized later on. Now it's like companies don't give a crap. And, maybe once they do, maybe things will change. But I don't know. I feel like this sort of thing is reciprocal. It's a cycle. So it's going to go through a moment of shit. And then if companies want more people and are willing to raise the standards are going to get raised. People are going to want to join the games industry, and it's just going to repeat back to the same step. Just my opinion. So let's talk about the respondents' quotes. Unpaid for the last 6 months, the company ran out of money. You need to see a lawyer, man. That's fucked. Unpaid for the last 6 months. This is actually far worse than what we cover on our YouTube channel. So we talk about companies that outwardly put volunteer roles from the get-go. You know it's going to be unpaid. Whether or not it's legal is a different question, and whether or not it's unethical, well, it's pretty fucking unethical, let's be real. But to not get paid for the last 6 months of work when you're supposed to be paid, that's messed up. Like that's like the worst case scenario in terms of working in any industry. That's so bad. I'd rather take the poor treatment but getting paid than the non-paid for better treatment. That's fucked. My US manager refused to give me a raise, saying, I think it's enough for Europe. Okay, so this is an outsourcing. Well, I mean, guy's got a point. People, like, again, it falls on the people of that country, of that area. If people are willing to accept lower pay in Europe, the US manager's goal is to make as much profit as possible. It's sort of, dude has a point. Dude, it's sad, it's immoral as fuck, but dude has a point. The company keeps piling more and more work onto employees without increasing salaries. Yeah, typical. Top management keeps making poor decisions. Just, yeah, it is what it is. Like, I mean, this is just, they're trying to squeeze as much as they can from people. And yeah, people again, it falls down to the standards of people. Assertiveness will go a long way, again. Please just give me a job. Money isn't the issue, as long as it's enough to cover my living expenses and a pack of cigarettes a day. This is the fucking problem. I think this is just someone quoting, I don't think they're quoting themselves. I think this is someone quoting what they think that the state of the industry is like and that people are going to do this. Because it's true. People are willing to work even for fucking free. We've seen good fucking examples. The studios that we cover that offer volunteer work, hundreds of applications, especially if they promote it by the hire. If they pay LinkedIn to promote it, hundreds of applications. So why wouldn't people work for peanuts if they're willing to work for fucking no peanuts? Make that make fucking sense. Hopefully we can change this fucking thing. Like, seriously, it fucks everything. People working for free fucks everything. People working for peanuts fucks everything to a lesser extent, but it still fucks a lot of shit. Sorry for the amount of swearing, but I'm Aussie. Get over it. After 12 years in the industry, I've never felt more disappointed in how my profession is treated. I didn't expect, I quickly skimmed through these slides. I didn't expect to get these stories. These are great. These are cake to me. More than ever, employers make it seem like it's our fault, just to justify lowering salaries and expecting one person to do the work of three. So sort of reiterating, what this person said. While I do believe that to excel, you should broaden your skills, the demands placed on a single role, say a 2D artist, have become absurd. True, especially with all artists in general. Programmers too, but artists are just getting, it's ridiculous out there. I know I've been treated, not completely like shit, but I've been treated pretty poorly sometimes by a few recruiters and a few people that have hired me. Employers often use the high level of competition to their advantage. Why wouldn't they? I mean, it makes sense. If I was an evil person, well, I guess that's the crazy thing. It's not even technically them being that evil. It makes sense logically why they are doing what they're doing, because they win at the end. But even for the ones that are evil, it's still, why wouldn't you do that? If you were in their shoes, why wouldn't you also do it? I'm truly disappointed. I feel you. It is very disappointing. Like, I 100% agree with that, and a lot of other people do as well. Sorry, next point. The trust in companies is gone. The trust in the future of games is gone. Yes and no. Like, people don't... If you're getting paid, I don't think people care about the trust in the company. The trust in the future of games is gone. That I'm more on board with. I agree with that fully. I don't trust the games. I don't trust the job market in games as well. We're overworked, underpaid, poorly trained, and often expected to take on responsibilities far beyond our roles without compensation. Now, that's fucked. Without the extra compensation. Now, we don't get the full story on this, There's people who are too afraid to speak up, and I don't blame them, but there's also the people that are okay to speak up. They just do it in a way that's not optimal, right? Some people, obviously this is frustrating for this person. Some people show that frustration to the employer. I don't think that's the best strat. You need to market it in a positive way. you, of course, use the example that you're doing more work and that you deserve more money. That's good. But the way you approach that has to be in like a bartering way instead of like a, oh, I'm feeling fucked over. You better fucking help me out type way. We need more to the story. I guess we can read more. I've been tasked with marketing, UI, texturing, engine implementation, and more, all on top of an already overloaded job with the unspoken expectation that I just do it to keep my position. Okay, so they're threatening you. See, that's a bit different with like they're playing hardball. So it's very difficult to play like slight manipulation bartering when they're already, they know they've got you by the balls. They know that they can just get someone else to replace you, and there's many other applicants that'll be willing to take what you've got for even probably less pay. Again, the responsibility sort of falls on us to raise our standards. The excuse was always, it's just part of the industry. There was no credit for the extra work either, and I hate, it's just what we have to do. We're just a family. I feel ya. There was no credit for the extra work either. Yeah, I mean, credit, so what? If you get like the biggest problem here is like the no compensation for that extra work. Then again, if you're working in the same, see, this isn't explicitly talking about overtime. It's talking about working more within the dedicated hours that you already have. So yeah, this is a difficult situation. And while the pay was decent, and see, that's the problem as well. The pay is decent. So that's another thing that's stopping you, because they can argue that point back at you. I can't help but wonder if it's really all worth it. Well, so then the pay really isn't that decent. Because if the pay was decent, if you were truly satisfied with how much you're getting paid, you will do that extra work and not really complain. But then again, maybe this is like on like gray. Maybe this is like on the fence about like just barely being paid decently. Again, if you were satisfied, you wouldn't like. I don't know. It's talking about you're obviously saying that you're not satisfied, but then you think the pay is decent too. Feels a bit like of a mismatch here. Anyway, moving on. So now we've got the gender pay gap. So it's going to be talking about the difference between males and females. Interestingly enough, it doesn't mention the 19.5% others. So we got to remember that. So we're going to see the positions in which men get paid more and what women get paid more. And this one's a bit surprising too. So when it comes to top management, we got the men getting paid more. This one actually doesn't surprise me. Again, I think it comes down to assertiveness and agreeableness. Project management and production, again, sort of a manager role, makes sense. Programming and development, men getting paid more than women, but not that much different. I think this might be because the women that get into programming generally are going to be very talented, because it takes a certain type of mind, and I don't think it's a gender thing. It takes a certain type of mind to do programming. So that sort of makes sense a little bit. Marketing and user acquisition, women getting paid more than men. Now, I think I might have a theory for this. The theory being that I feel when it comes to marketing and sales, women have a generally easier time being people or people persons. I think that's the right way of saying it. It's easy for them to communicate and talk in a more pleasant way. And I feel like that gets rewarded. And when it comes to selling stuff, you need to manipulate people in not an evil, I mean, you can approach it in an evil way, but manipulate people in like you need to have a good front. And I feel like women generally are better at putting on a good front than what a guy is. And obviously they're getting paid more for it. More power to them. Games design's fairly split even. Really rare that you see games design jobs, so that's probably why. Business development and sales, same thing as the marketing. I think that's the exact same point, to be honest. Art and design. 30 men are getting paid more than women, but both are getting paid shit still. Like the pay rate here is trash. But I do think this comes down to a level of confidence. Typically with artists, I feel like we're built different. We're more likely to be more introverted. That's probably why the pay is low for both ends. But when it comes to being introverted and not being able to communicate with people, you're less likely to ask for a pay rise, you're less likely to demand a higher base rate, and just simply like the competition is just fierce in general. There's so many people wanting to get into that industry. And I also have another theory why women might be getting paid less. And I think it's got to do with preference in what art they do. And what I mean by that is like the 2D/3D discrepancy. So when it comes to that, I reckon there is probably more 2D artist women than 2D artist males. I might be wrong on this. I don't have the data. I'm just giving theories, remember? So when it comes to, I'll be on the train, for example, and the more chances likely than not, I would see a woman with a notepad drawing versus a guy on a pad drawing. I just think that when it comes to 2D illustration, I feel like women are more likely to do that. And unfortunately, when it comes to that type of work, I feel like that is paid less versus a 3D artist or any type of other art, not including 2D art. That could be the reason. Again, just a theory. Anyway, HR and recruiting, men getting paid more than women is interesting because I feel like more women would be into HR recruiting than men. But this is the games industry. So again, it is slightly tilted towards men getting into the industry in general versus women. It's probably like freaking, like compared to when I was at uni, I do remember seeing girls in the same class. There was maybe, I reckon there was about three, maybe, let's be a bit conservative here. 5 girls per class. If the class was about 22, and then in the lecture hall, there would be like 3 to 4 classes of that. So there was it's, well, what would that be? That would be like 10, 15, I don't know, 15% women. So that could be a factor. Community and support, the same. QA testing, the same. Man, QA people and just community people, just like, it's fucked. QA is just, it's fucked. There's just, again, working with indies, there's like 2 jobs for QA. One of those is senior, and the other one is for like some weird like specialist VR role that most people won't be able to do. QA, yeah. Anyway, and then this talks about what the desirable median salary would be. So obviously, of course, these numbers are going to be higher than what's actually being paid. So there's nothing really different about this. It's just that when it comes to maybe top level positions, men want to get paid way more. What was the women one? Relative ratio wise, it's the same. Okay, it's just the same, but people want to get paid more. Of course we want to get paid more. We're human. Compensation and benefits. This is not something that I think I can talk too much about. It's more about like bonuses and paid sick leave and how many of those jobs are like that. I do think one thing I want to talk about is I wonder what the ratio between contract work and employee work is, because I feel that it's much harder nowadays to get employee work. Everything is more becoming contract based. The beauty about contracts is you should be able to, in theory, ask for a higher hourly rate. The problem is that's just not fucking happening. People are accepting minimum wage for contracts, right? Which is far worse than getting minimum wage as an employee, because you get those 6 weeks a year. It depends on country to country. I'm not sure how it is in Europe, but I'm pretty sure in Canada. What's it in Australia? I think it's in Australia, Canada. I think it's about like 4 to 6 weeks of paid annual leave per year. And then sick leave, I think, is like 2 weeks per year. You need the doctor's certificate, but still, there's a bunch of other leaves too, like the long service, and those are rare to get. Point being is you're actually, by accepting a contract role, you got to factor that in. You're missing out on 4 to 6 weeks of paid work, which is significant. That's like a whole month and a bit of like pay. That, I don't know, 4 or 5 grand difference at least. I don't know, it depends how much you get paid. Bonuses as well. See, okay, I will talk about this. I reckon the art of bonuses, or like the concept of a bonus in the games industry, is like dead now, or it's at least dying. Very rarely do I see job posts that say you'll get a bonus. It's just not in the games industry. For sales and marketing and like other industries, yes, but not in the games industry. It's a dying system. And, you know, it's unfortunate. It is what it is. That's my opinion anyway. Don't have any data to back that up. It's just going from what I'm seeing on the job sites. And then we got other things, don't really care. So let's read what this person says. I love my job, but because my company operates internationally, I'm technically classified as a contractor, okay? Even though internally, I'm treated as a full-time salaried employee. As a result, I miss out on benefits and I wish I could at least receive some form of tax compensation. That's what I mean. My question to this person that wrote this is, did you factor that in during your contract? Did you think about that before suggesting or before negotiating the terms of your contract? Because a lot of people forget. A lot of people forget that. And a lot of people also just don't know to do that too. We're not taught in uni. We're not taught anywhere. You know, it's the education system for the games industry is a mess. It's an absolute mess. The only way to fix it is to just educate people on this, and hopefully those educated people teach people that are in the education system to implement it and teach the actual students themselves. Hopefully one day we can become a guest lecturer and talk about all the stuff that we talk about on this channel. Hopefully. What makes employees loyal and engaged? They have this system called the eNPS, which is an Employee Net Promoter Score. NPS stands for Net Promoter Score, a metric used in customer experience programs. NPS measures the loyalty of customers to a company. NPS scores are measured with a simple question survey and reported with a number from -100 to 100. A high score is desirable. Loyalty is becoming a thing of the past when it comes to working in the games industry too. I feel like, and actually in all industries, this goes to all jobs. So my dad worked at this one company for 30 years. It's not that it was like a cushion. I guess theoretically it's a cushion job in terms of like job security. But those type of things simply just don't exist anymore. Or they probably do, but not to the same extent. Very rarely are you going to be able to get a job in the games industry and be working there for 30 years. Come on, let's just be real. I don't think that's happening, guys. You might work in the games industry for 30 years, but at the same company, I don't think it's a thing. Let's talk about this. So I haven't had a chance to break into the gaming industry yet. Yeah, unfortunately, like many others, rough. With AI and layoffs, it's getting harder and harder, and honestly, I'm not sure I ever will. On top of that, the number of entry-level jobs is terrible. Practically nothing at all. You're right. If you're listening, you're right. Unfortunately, the number of entry-level jobs in the games industry, it's practically nothing. Yeah. I don't think AI isn't the reason. It's just companies, I don't think, are willing to invest the money into getting more junior or inexperienced people now. They're just, it's going to be difficult to fix. Like, there's many reasons probably why. It's like they can't be bothered training people. They don't really think it's worth it. It's just companies aren't willing to pay minimum wage for a junior anymore. It's just, they obviously have done the numbers. It's just not worth it for them, or else they'd be doing it. Sad. I've been trying to get a job as a 3D artist for 2 years. I built a portfolio, took countless courses. Even ChatGPT told me I have a solid background for a junior role. You shouldn't be listening. To be fair, you shouldn't be listening to ChatGPT about this type of stuff. It's been designed to, give you endorphins. It's been designed to support you as well. It might not give you the brutal, honest truth all the time. And plus, it might be straight up wrong. Again, would need to see the portfolio to know for sure. But that being said, I have seen examples of people with amazing portfolios as a junior and still not being able to land a job. It is a thing, so there is some truth to that. But it's all been in vain. Not even the smallest studios respond to my applications. That's true too. I've applied to countless jobs and not hit a single thing back recently. Not a single thing back. But when I transitioned into sales and marketing, applying for those jobs, like I've mentioned this before, I don't have to bring this up again, but I've heard back from many of them, and I've been able to secure interviews. And even landing a job feels a lot easier. I feel you though. Many others feel you too. And look, that's the thing. You're not alone in this. Many others feel the exact same way. Even I feel that way. That's why I'm leaving it. Fuck the games industry. The only real reason I would stay in the games industry from now is if my ex bosses came back to me with more work for me to do because I like working for them, or to work on my game with my brother. I feel like that's the only two reasons I would stay. I'm done. I'm done working for new people. I'm done applying. It's just why feel like shit all the time. It truly makes you feel bad about yourself. You feel useless. You feel worthless. My face can't convey it more than any other words can. So take that as you will. I worked for 2 years at a studio, starting as a junior 3D artist and later becoming mid-level. I was fired after questioning the lack of funding and salaries, including my own, and pointing out company missteps that led to financial trouble. Big mistake. Yeah, nah, don't. I know I spoke before about being assertive being a good thing when it comes to salary, but when it comes to like bickering about the company and how they fucked up, yeah, of course you're gonna get fired. I mean, obviously they're probably not gonna fire you for that exact reason because I don't think that's fireable. They're gonna find something else to try fire you about. But yeah, hopefully, if you're listening, yeah, learn from that. That's honestly bad play. I'm just gonna be straight up honest, bad play. The official reason for my dismissal was political views. See, they found something else. Again, I don't know the full story. Maybe there's more that you've forgotten to say, or there's more that's actually going on and you're purposely not saying it. So I can't really give you a definitive answer whether or not, this is truly bad. Again, I still think it's a bad play, actually, overall. So it doesn't really matter. I lost my team connections. Interesting. And in a way, my professional identity as a 3D artist. Yeah, I mean, I still think bad play, but yeah, it feels bad, man. Moving on. What makes employees loyal and engaged? Our company has always struggled with proper pipelines. As product releases get closer, we constantly work overtime, which is paid. Okay, no big problem then. But work-life balance is non-existent. We've had urgent team meetings at 3 a.m. and critical weekend tasks. Well, depends on what's on the contract. Have you signed the contract which stipulates that if any urgent matters appear that you have to attend at any given time for any given amount? I mean, you're getting paid for it, so not the worst thing in the world that I've seen. For one of our biggest releases, the team was running on Fuse. Management promised that once we delivered, everyone would get a 2-week mandatory break where we could all rest at the same time and no one would bother us. They kept that promise, but the time was taken off from our regular annual leave, not in addition to it. Those smart C words, mate. Yeah, again, words are words, man. Fucking, maybe, to be fair, maybe you misheard it. There's maybe there was a miscommunication, but if not, yeah, words are just words, man. They're honestly outplayed. Not your fault. I mean, I feel bad for you, but yeah, they don't have to, it's not in writing. So, and this is beneficial for them as well. Taking your leave out early is beneficial for the employer to do that, because if you're getting paid your current salary and you ask for a salary range, if you ask for a salary raise after 2 to 3 months, then that annual leave is now going to get paid out at your higher base rate. So I see what they're doing here. It's, when you think about it, it's evil, but it's smart. Not in addition to it. So essentially they made us use our vacation days at random, unplanned time, and then they threw us a pizza party. Yeah, because nothing's simpler and cheaper than, buying 10 pizzas. That's what, fucking couple $100 versus giving you additional paid time. Yeah, the company fucking won. It just makes sense. And this talks about work format. So people that are remote, -2 to 6. People that are hybrid are more happier than people that are remote and on site. Interesting. I thought you would think the remote would be higher. I certainly value remote work like the most. That's just my opinion. What do you guys reckon? But I know some people need that like physical face-to-face interaction to feel satisfied. It makes sense. Skip this. People don't honestly. The standards are so low that I don't think this really fucking matters at the end of the day when it talks about how people feel loyal and engaged. Don't think it matters. Don't think it matters. Don't think it matters. AI adoption. Now, I spoke about this before. Don't think it really matters. Like I said before, I don't think it's really going to take your job because it's better than you. I think it just falls back to, is your company stupid enough to invest into AI instead of you? Moving on, we've got work arrangement trends and employment types. So it's talking about the difference between how many of us are remote, on-site, or hybrid. So the majority are remote, which is interesting because we saw before that the highest satisfaction of people is hybrid based. And well, it is second place to be fair. Yep, moving on. Who feels at risk of being laid off? Now, this one's interesting. So we asked respondents to rate the likelihood of being affected by layoffs over the next year on a 5-point scale. Let's have a look at who feels more vulnerable during this period of market turbulence. Position number 1, sound. Yep, and I know why. Because there is just no sound jobs going. Like, if you've got a sound job, sound and music, and you're currently working in the games industry, then fucking you are one lucky fucking person. I'm just saying, like, again, I'm not saying that in a way to like be like, oh, you should lower your standards because you might lose your job. No. I mean, like, fucking hell, man. Like, the amount of opportunities for that are so minuscule. It's probably one of the smallest job roles in the games industry. So it would obviously make sense that you'd be scared of losing your job. And plus, there's a big abundance of people that want to get into it, unfortunately. I mean, it's a good thing, but unfortunately, the market can't accommodate. Next is media and blogs. So social media stuff, I guess, makes sort of sense. There's a lot of people that want to do that. And it's very approachable with the mobile phone. Very easy to do with people on mobile. You don't necessarily need a PC for it. I just got a reply about that I got rejected from another job. That's great. We love that. So community/support, sort of easy job to do, makes sense because it's mostly online. Art and design makes a ton of sense because so many people want to do it and you just feel like, again, it's a race to the bottom type thing. Marketing, user acquisition, again, makes sense. Programming and development. This one surprised me a bit. I thought it would be a little bit lower than that. It seems to be pretty close to art and design, but it seems like programmers are pretty scared about feeling like they're going to get kicked off too. QA testing, don't feel that worried. I just don't think there's that many people working in QA. So I think that's probably the reason why people don't feel worried. Because if you're not working the job, how can you be worried about losing the job? I don't know. We got here games design, fair enough. HR and recruiting, not really. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense in a way. Analytics and being the founder and co-founder. Now, I don't know how you can be laid off being the founder, co-founder. Maybe if you gave away 51% of your shares. Unless this means, it could be inferring to like feeling like you're going to default and fail your company. Maybe that's what it refers to. But yeah, it's funny that being the founder and co-founder, I mean, it makes sense that they're at the bottom, but they'd even feel that sort of risk. I guess, like I said before, if you get rid of the majority of your company, you're still a founder, but you're not the majority shareholder. You like someone else can make the decision to get rid of you. Fair enough. And of course, when it comes to, we're comparing to different skill levels, different experience levels, how they feel. Of course, the people who have less experience are going to feel like they're more replaceable. Makes sense. I mean, there's nothing new about that. Let's read this respondent's quotes because it looks interesting just from looking at it for 1 second. Fuck layoffs, fuck toxic workplaces, fuck job instability in gaming and months of unemployment. You're not alone, brother. You're not alone. Many people feel like this. It's like the 5 stages of grief. It's like the denial stage that you go through, like while you're during uni. If you're told that the games industry is rough, you think, oh, surely it can't be that bad. And then you go into what's the next stage? It's like the anger stage, which is currently what he's in. And then there's like the bargaining stage, which will be like, oh, come on, I just want to get a job so easily. And that's how people get desperate. What's the fucking fourth stage? You guys will have to help me in the comments. Fuck. I know the last stage is acceptance. The fourth stage is fucking sadness. I think always sadness. Yeah, sadness comes after, right? So that makes sense. And then acceptance. Yeah. I've really felt insecure about the games industry for the past 2 to 3 years, and I've been thinking about switching to a different field. This guy is precisely one step behind how I feel. I'm like the one step ahead in terms of like, nah, I'm done. Like I'm over it. Let's switch. He is considering it. It sounds it sounds like one step ahead of what Andrew feels. Andrew's like one step behind. He sort of has that hope, which is good. It's good to have hope. It's always good to have hope. The past 3 years have been rough. I got an offer from a major studio and joined, but my visa was denied and I had to give up the job. Yeah, it feels bad. Yeah, that's rough. I know someone from my community that went through that exact thing. Yeah, governments, man, like that's all it takes. The government says no, can't do nothing. Then I landed an offer from an established studio in Europe and relocated, only for the company's investors to pull out. And I lost that job too. It's been over a year and I'm still looking for work. Yeah, we've had that happen to us as well, where we plan, me and Andrew, we're planning something to work for this business. We get the plans in motion, but investors just decide to, they just pull out. They cold feet. Cold feet, which is very common. That's something that a lot of people have to get used to. It is a thing. Job change, so we won't go over this too much, but it looks like that 10.4% of people were laid off and are still currently unemployed, which I think that number is actually far higher. Remember at the start of the video, regurgitating the brain, where I said about that I think the numbers that we're going to see here are best case scenario. I actually think the numbers are more brutal than what this doc is presenting, even though that's brutal. 16.3% said yes, I was laid off and found a new job. Good on ya. 17.5% said yes, but by my own choice. Again, factoring in people retiring and people wanting to move into a different industry, and maybe you're so senior that you feel like you can. Actually, no. It's more like you've just quit out the industry in general. And 55.8% people said no. So that's the majority of people still are in their games job compared to a year back, which is, positive, but we can do way better, man. Again, I think because this number is so underrepresented that this number is just larger because of it. So in 2025, the share of professionals who changed jobs voluntarily dropped noticeably 17.5% versus 23.2% in 2024. So less people are voluntarily leaving, but more people are leaving involuntarily. Gotcha. Makes a bunch of sense. Let's move on. So different departments. Again, I don't feel like talking about this anymore. Let's keep going. Here we go. This person says, this, I think the saddest part is getting great feedback in every evaluation. Knowing I'm having a positive impact on the company and still being laid off. Yeah, it's fucked. It's not good enough to be talented. That's the thing in the games industry. The leadership decided the best way to please investors was to cut 25% of the payroll, even though the company was still profitable. Just not profitable enough. Business is business, man. Next quote. I was laid off about 2 weeks after successfully passing my trial period. At first, they told me I was a great professional and they wanted to work with me. Then 2 weeks later, they told me I was a great professional but couldn't keep me because of the layoffs. Fucking hell, that's fucking like being like, bye. Bye bye, we're firing you. That's fucking rough. Getting fired with a smile is crazy. The company I worked for laid off over 100 people in the past year. The way they handled it was completely wrong. They did it in 3 waves. Each time, transparency dropped even further. Some people, but not me, took them to court and won settlements. Fucking good on ya. Personally, I was relieved to be laid off. They were building a toxic culture. Good on you. Like, seriously, not enough people are standing up for themselves. They're either through like fear or just like feeling like it's not worth it. Good on this. It takes great courage and guts to stand up to an employer who probably has more money than you most of the time. I know that's not the case all the time, but good on you. And obviously they won settlements, so worth it in the end, or hopefully. Hopefully it was one of those systems where the lawyer costs didn't supersede the settlement winnings. Then again, it sometimes it feels good just to like, you take it personally. So then again. Next quote. I'm in my last month at the studio. And honestly, it doesn't look like the studio will last much longer. I know a lot of people are feeling that way right now in my community. They're doing work for the studio and they just know that they're going to be going soon. They know the studio is going to fail. The management is just in complete la la land. They're in delulu stages. They think what they've got is the best shit ever. But the people working on the actual stuff, they know more than what the management knows. The whole thing is almost comical. After losing the client for our product, they laid off the most qualified specialists and had the remaining team work on a game without any market assessment. The result, the efficient managers now have an almost finished game that nobody wants. See, this is what I mean. Proves my point. Meanwhile, an alternative project with real potential was scrapped. That's how it goes. Well, I do think you're smarter than the other guy for not bringing that up, because if you already did, you would have lost your job. That's just how it is. Next, I landed my dream job working on my dream project, and then out of nowhere, the company decided to downsize. 3 months of living my dream, and I was back to square one. I would have to know more about how it was your dream job. Maybe it was working at your dream company, and maybe you're in that stage of your life where you feel like getting into that company has always been your dream, but we'll see how you feel about that when you get older. Yeah, I feel ya. You're technically not at square one. Let's be real. Like, it might feel like you're at square one. You're at square two. Because square one is like the people who have no experience. You can use that on your portfolio and your resume. It will do something for you. Moving on, key factors when choosing a new employer, salary at the top. I mean, what else do we expect? Work format being next, that also makes sense. And work-life balance, that makes sense. Let's talk about this. Within my circle of friends and contacts across the industry, I know 3 people who were made redundant and lost their housing. Desperate times make desperate people make desperate decisions, which are poor decisions. 2 others haven't been paid in months, and just the other day, one of their companies was declared bankrupt. This sounds exactly like the story which I spoke about. I forgot the guy's name. I'm so sorry if you're listening. He's also based in Eastern Europe. This sounds, honestly, I don't think it's him, but it sounds like it could be him. Another contact has been told he won't be paid this month, really at all, despite already being underpaid and relying on benefits. Sounds illegal, man. Get a lawyer on this, but I know many people can't. If you can't afford your housing, how are you going to afford a lawyer? I was made redundant myself, and I was lucky enough to find freelance work. But many of my friends and colleagues are already talking about leaving the industry altogether. No words, just my face. I'm one of the many people caught up in the massive wave of layoffs in the games industry. I've been job hunting for 6 months now, and I'm starting to wonder if there's something wrong with my CV. No, it's not. Well, maybe, but probably not. It's just, I keep getting rejection letters or being ghosted by employers. It's been an incredibly tough time mentally, emotionally, and financially. Losing my job has taken a huge toll on my confidence and self-esteem, and every rejection just makes it harder. Many people feel like that way too. We again, I don't. It's probably not because of your CV. I mean, you landed that job, that first job to begin with, so your CV obviously had to be good enough for that. Yeah, it's just the industry's rough. Before I joined my last company, I had 6 offers on the table and ended up working there for 2 years. Now, it's been more than 6 months since I was laid off, and I'm actively looking for a new role. The situation is the complete opposite, getting an offer that has become exponentially harder. I haven't received a single one in all this time. I hope things turn around. I hope so too. Last year I changed jobs, but the search took me a year and a half. I honestly don't remember such a global market crisis since the 1990s. This is a senior talking. I've spent 20 years, another senior talking, in the games industry and have now been unemployed for 2.5 years. Ooh, far. Living on the street. Far. There has been zero humanity from the games companies despite my skills and experience. We'll have to see it for myself to know for sure, but every time I hear, sorry, we've decided to move forward with another candidate. I mean, that makes sense. Every industry has that. They could hire me simply to save a person, but instead their other candidates can easily find work while I can't. I feel like trash thrown away, like I've been retired at 40 without a pension. My income is €0. Yeah. After 2 years of unpaid work building a demo and starting my own company, my former friends staged a hostile takeover of my shares and ran a smear campaign against me. What? Now I haven't been able to find a job for over 7 months, and I'm on the verge of losing my family and home. How the fuck did you fuck that up? After 2 years of unpaid work building a demo and starting my own company, my former friends who would have had shares staged a hostile takeover. So you gave your friends more shares than what you have, but you also, okay, we might be forgetting one important thing. You are doing exactly what I'm very against these other studios doing, which we are known for on our channel, calling out studios which give potential revenue share for unpaid work. For all I know, you could be a fuckwit. You know, using your friends especially or other people to work on your game company, working on your game and taking advantage of them. How are we supposed to know you're not the evil one here? How are we supposed to know you're not the evil one? Interesting. Sad to hear you're losing your family and home though. You know, that's bad. I've been laid off 5 times in the past 5 years. Most recently, just a month ago, I'm losing trust in this industry. I mean, getting laid off 5 times in just 5 years, you should already have lost that trust to begin with. I feel like that you should already be past that point, but some people take longer to realize that than others. Next, key factors when choosing a new employee. Don't care. Interesting. We're going to talk about QA now. QA gets stepped on as a matter of course. We're seen as completely disposable and are always the first to be laid off. True. Also because there's no jobs going for it. Well, maybe let's see if they talk about it. I tried several times to move out of QA, but at the time DEI was ramping up and the opportunities always went to women. All I ever wanted was to work in games, and after 13 years, I still can't get another role, and I don't know why. Well, you did bring it up. Like you gave this, like, I'm not saying that this is true. Honestly, I don't think this is true at all. I don't think it's women taking the men's jobs in the games industry particularly. Maybe I can't speak for other industries, but yeah, why are you saying you don't know why, but then you give a reason why you think why? It's honestly, QA is just a fucked like job role. It's just dying. Like, again, it comes back to the whole, I think the programmers are using the programmers to do the QA as an extra thing. Probably not even paid for it as well. Programmers are given the extra responsibility to test their own shit. QA has just become a dying thing. I was made redundant when my company decided to move the QA to India. Yeah, the third world countries. I mean, why pay you 25 an hour? Or I don't know where you're from. If you're from, well, you're going to be from Europe somewhere. It depends on what the minimum wage is. Why pay your minimum wage of your country when you can just pay 2 to 3 USD, maybe even less, to an Indian? Just far cheaper. Even if the Indian person that gets the job is like double as worse as you, they're still like 5 times cheaper. So you can just hire double the amount and it'll still work out to be cheaper for the company at the end of the day, assuming like no major fuck ups are made. I'm talking like linearly, by the way. So serves me right for thinking hard work would mean career growth and stability instead of being treated as expendable. Right now, the industry feels almost hostile to beginners. Everyone wants to hire people with 5+ years experience, but there are no entry-level roles to actually gain that experience. Even job platforms seem to assume you've already been employed or recently were. If you were born at the wrong time, breaking into this field feels nearly impossible. Now, let's tell this to the people who need to hear it. It's right, it's true. The problem is the people that need to hear this advice aren't hearing it. They're not finding out about it because they're not searching for it themselves because they're new, but no one is, again, I don't know how well this document is doing, but I reckon the majority of people who are going to be looking at this document, excluding the people watching on my YouTube channel and from Robert Barriers, the majority of people that are going to look at this document are probably seniors or still employed by a company right now or have worked for a while and are recently unemployed. The people who are like freshers, wanted to get into the industry, probably not many of them are going to be reading this. After 18 years in the games industry, 6 of them as a 3D character artist. Okay, so he transitioned into 3D as well. I now find myself unemployed and unable to find work. I'm forced to seriously consider leaving the industry and changing careers. Yeah, these aren't as separate quotes, so I do believe this is linked to the same person. Let's move on. Man, fuck, I've done a lot of talking. Like my throat is like fucked. I'm probably gonna have a sore throat tomorrow. So don't mind me skipping through this because I don't care. Relocation, yeah, we spoke a bit about that before. Not something that I want to do. I don't think it should be something that a lot of people want to do either. It's really risky. That's the main drawback of it. If you lose your job, you might have to shift houses and like shift country. Nah, not for me. Fuck that shit. I can't. I'm not going to read that. I will read this though. I was relocated to Poland, and I'm reading this because I have a few Polish people in my Discord server. They will appreciate it. On my tourist, don't know how to say that, Schengen visa, with the company assuring me it would be fine and that I'd easily get a residence permit, no problem. Well, trusting them is just a big fucking mistake to begin with. Of course, that never happened. I had to move to Serbia, a place I never planned or wanted to go. My idea was to get a valid visa in Serbia and then move back to Poland. But my project ended before I could even apply. I was still in the middle of preparing the documents. A few months later, I was laid off and now I'm still in Serbia. Still hoping to move to another country, but the chances are getting slimmer. Rough. This one's about freelancing. So I don't think freelancers get talked about enough. I've heard so many stories about not getting paid for work done. That's happened to me, not to a big extent, but it has happened to me where I've worked a couple of days on a few projects for a few different clients and ghosted. No money for me. And, I was pissed and I'm still sort of pissed now about it. It was ages ago, by the way. I'm not actually pissed, but I'm saying that in terms of it sucks that it had to happen. But yeah, it's happened to many other people in a far worse extent. So I truly feel bad for those people. You're facing unfair treatment. Yeah, that's happened to me too. And dealing with crazy work or contract conditions. But when you're left with the choice of working freelance with the hope of getting paid or not working at all, There's really no choice but to put up with it. They have the lawyers and we don't, and in many cases, we have no rights to stand on. Now, this comes back to checking what's in your contract, because you're saying that we have no rights to stand on. So what you're sort of inferring is that you're fucked, right? You signed the contract, and in there it probably talks a little about like, you're probably going to get paid for the work, but not about like the treatment that you will receive. And they have the lawyers and you don't. Yeah, it sucks, man. It really does suck. Yeah, just make sure you read the contract and try to get the best contract you can. Negotiate as hard as possible. And don't leave any loopholes for them to exploit, because that's what they love to do. Many of the times they leave those little loopholes in there to exploit you, but they have this in the back. They have this in their mind from the beginning. They know that they're going to do this from the beginning. This isn't a spur of the moment thing. So you're just going to be really careful. So who has pet projects? Mostly programmers do. Artists do. Honestly, more than I would have thought. But it makes sense that the programmers are more likely to do pet projects, because how are you supposed to build a game? You need to know how to code. Unless you purchase some assets, and you purchase some good ones that are available in the asset store, and they're good enough that you, as a non-programmer, can tweak it and make it work for you. How game dev professionals feel and what challenges they face. Overtime. So yeah, I mean, again, I've said this before, I don't really have a problem with overtime, so as long as it's paid. Who tends to work the most? Funny enough, this seems to be an even spread. The difference between 25% versus 30% to junior, it's nothing. How people feel, we can skip this. I'm going to skip this because it's not something I want to talk about. Let's keep going. So let's talk about the interview processes. A sad story. The art director, who is also a company founder, hires people without a proper interview process. He's always too busy and doesn't involve the direct team or team lead. Yeah, big no-no there. These hires relocate, but during the probation, the art director never makes time for proper check-ins. Only after the probation ends, thanks to the months of pushing from HR and myself, he finally realizes the new hire has serious issues with the team and the team with them. He then decides to fire them. This has happened 3 times over 3 years, creating a toxic environment for everyone and ultimately costing the company heavily when one of the employees took them to court. Like one of the people getting fired. That's interesting. That's again, it comes down to ego. That's something that we talk about a lot on the channel too, about how egotistical people are. It's purely just an ego thing. He thinks he is good enough to know what is required for these people. And when clearly he doesn't, he feels like because he's the head of it, he thinks he knows what he's doing, and he clearly doesn't. And that's an ego thing. Moving on. Skipping this. A quote from someone. Support from neurodivergent employees in the games industry is still lacking, and it often hinders career progression. At one company, I was told I couldn't be promoted because I didn't speak up enough in online meetings, even when the topics being discussed weren't areas where I had any insights to contribute. Now, I understand that. Yeah, I've always felt that it's better to play it safe when it comes to stuff you don't know. I've certainly made that mistake where I've been in an interview or a meeting where I've said something that I don't know really much about, and instantly I've regretted it because I feel like I've dug myself a hole, and I have been called out a time for it. That being said though, not speaking up enough in online meetings, I see where the guy's coming from. It's like he doesn't, the boss doesn't feel confident in you. It's a people skill thing. So maybe I don't have the full story here, and I've said that a bunch of times, but the full story might be that there should have been times where you should have spoken up, but you didn't. You just didn't know how to judge whether or not it was a good time to speak up. Yeah, I really not much else to add other than that. What issues do specialists face? They face burnout, which we know from before, ineffective management, team conflicts, lack of appreciation. Fair enough. So let's talk about when my manager was promoted to CEO. I only found out from a LinkedIn post. Who cares? I reported my director for emotional manipulation. HR confirmed it was unprofessional and unacceptable behavior, but a few months later, I was the one who got fired. HR isn't there to protect you. They are employed by the company, right? They're working for them. They might put a perception out, like perceive themselves to be for the employees and to be like helping you. But again, this goes back to the other problem of the guy that opened his mouth when he shouldn't have. Emotional manipulation. Yeah, see, HR is just like confirmed it was unprofessional and unacceptable behavior. That's just speak. That's just human to human speak. That's just to get you off them. Yeah, never go to HR with your problems, at least without consulting someone else first to make sure it's truly a good idea. Because at the end of the day, the people who pay them is the company. They don't care. You're secondary to the company. And by secondary, I mean they don't give a fuck about you. Really, that's how it is. They don't give a fuck about you. They only care about their bosses and making sure that they still have a job. Good life lesson for you. I had been a team leader for about 5 years, but I changed jobs due to burnout and toxic atmosphere, and the top management owner level. A little over a year later, the whole team was fired, so it turns out my timing was right. Well, that's good. You got some foresight in you. At my previous workplace, everyone was too afraid to ask our only HR anything because she was so good at giving toxic answers. Well, fear is definitely a component to why you wouldn't talk. Maybe those people were smart enough to realize that talking to that HR is useless as well. I even asked friends from other companies to get their HR departments to help me with paperwork questions. Why would they? I experienced sexual harassment from a coworker during a social event at the office. He repeatedly kissed me throughout the evening. Since then, I've been extremely uncomfortable at work, especially on days when I have to interact with him. Yeah, that's rough. Now, when it comes to these types of things, it's really important to hear the other side. I don't deny that if this truly happened, then this is really bad. But why are we going to HR with this? We should be going to the police with this. This is like a crime if this was committed. Something tells me that that adds a level of suspicion in it, that perhaps it might be slightly exaggerated for what's truly going on. But yeah, HR, we should be going to the police about this, to the authorities. They will handle it better than what HR will. Once the police are involved, then HR can get involved. But yeah, something about that just triggers my spidey sense to be a bit, maybe something was a bit strange here. But then again, might be wrong. If it happened, bad. I was fired after disclosing a disability, probably illegal. So maybe see a lawyer about that. I was excluded from writing for a game whose director claims they wanted an authentic voice based on the race. After I refused to work under those standards and left the project, I later found out the director had simply hired a friend of theirs who wasn't even of the appropriate race to write the story. That's fucking funny. A friend of theirs, look, it was probably done for free. That's probably why they got him in. Let's be real. I've been away from work for 6 months due to burnout, caused in part by a toxic atmosphere and constant undermining of my work. I've just returned, but I'm already considering moving to a new job or going freelance now that I've mostly recovered my energy. Okay, fair enough. Let's skip this, and we're going to finish off with companies that people want to work for. CD Projekt Red, Larian, Blizzard, Valve, Riot. I mean, makes sense. Interestingly enough, Rockstar is here at number 8. I wonder if this document was written before the Rockstar stuff, you know, with the whole firing the people, the union members that were about to form a union. So I wonder if that has that factored in. I wonder. And that's it. And then we've got some useful links. Thank you so much again to Robert Berrier for showing me this document, and also thank you to the team who also wrote the document as well. I'm probably going to butcher these names. I am so sorry. I'm not going to bother with the last names because you Europeans have some weird... I'm European as well, but you Europeans have some weird names, man. Tanya, Katya, Denny's, I guess like the Denny's in Canada, like the coffee shop, and Olga. Thank you very much. This is a very insightful report. I do wish, though, it had some more junior coverage. That being said, it's always good to hear what the seniors think, and I feel like it's very valuable. And I guess that's the end of the video. This is a long video. I'm going to have to trim out some things, I think. But I guess guys will catch you in the next video. See you later. Bye-bye. Got something to expose? Call the Spilato Bros.